Stanford University.
Good afternoon. Welcome to EE 380, the Stanford Electrical Engineering Computer Systems Colloquium. Our speaker next week will be Paul Rothman from Caltech, who's going to be speaking on Beyond Watson and Crick, Recent Advances in the Use of DNA as a Building Material. And it should be a very interesting talk. Different than today's talk. Our speaker today is Sal Khan, who is the focus, I guess, these days, or the person behind the Khan Academy, which is a very different approach to education. It might be thought of as a minimalist approach, using the net and a webcam and a paper and pencil and not much else. On the other hand, the impact has been really, really great, and it's something which a lot of us really admire, and I think worth your consideration. So, you're on.
All right. So I just want to start off saying, I want to keep this, we're a relatively small group, so let's keep this as informal as possible. Feel free to interrupt, ask questions at any point, and really what I want to do is just tell you a little bit about what you probably know a little bit about Khan Academy, and then show you what we're up to, and then really just open it up and have a conversation about really anything that y'all want to have a conversation about. I guess we'll start. How many of y'all have seen the site, have visited? Okay, good. So I'm preaching to the choir, I guess. So how many of y'all have used the software part of the site, the exercises? Oh, this is good. So there'll be some learning here, I guess. So for those of y'all who have visited, that's what the site looks like, and it actually is about, I've had a lot of user interface people send angry emails to me about putting 2,000 links on one page. But you can, this is only about 1/10 of the height of the home page. You can keep scrolling down. It's over 2,000 videos, literally covering everything from 1 + 1 = 2 all the way to, that's some vector calculus there, that's cosmology. We have the French Revolution. I'm actually in process of doing some macroeconomics video. Well, there's actually a ton already, but I'm going to do some for some TV networks. So it's a big volume of stuff, and it is kind of these 10-minute videos that originally started as YouTube telling me, or I just had a regular account you had on YouTube at the time, and you had to limit it to 10 minutes. So I limited them to 10 minutes, and now I can do longer videos, but all the feedback I've gotten has been, no, 10 minutes is just about perfect. And it's not just feedback from learners, it's feedback from researchers who said, no, we've actually seen attention span, and at about 11 minutes people start, or actually about 8 or 9 minutes people start dropping off. And so we've kept to this, and as Dennis mentioned, you don't see me, you just hear my voice, and you see this scrawling happen. And I don't know, some of y'all might kind of be familiar with the story of how it all got started. It literally got started in 2004. I was an analyst at a hedge fund in Boston. My cousin Nadia was visiting me from New Orleans, and she was not getting tracked in kind of the advanced math track. And you know how, if you don't do that, you're not going to get to calculus, and you're not going to end up at Stanford and be a CS major and all the rest. So I decided to intervene. And we agreed, and she was a motivated, straight-A student, no reason why she shouldn't be able to get into the advanced class. And so she went back to New Orleans, and we kind of did a virtual tutoring with her, where we would just get on a conference call. We used Yahoo Doodle. That was the best free thing I could find in 2004. And it worked. 2-3 months, fast forward, she was able to place into the advanced math class. Fast forward into that summer, she ended up taking algebra the summer between her 7th and 8th grade. Fast forward 2 years, she took calculus her freshman year in high school. And then fast forward 3 years, she's a literature major at Sarah Lawrence. But the point I make is she chose to be a literature major, as opposed to she actually is and continues to be a bit of a rock star in mathematics, but she chose to go into literature and writing. But I got excited, let's rewind back those first couple of months. It was like, hey, this is working. I work at a hedge fund. At a hedge fund, it's kind of hard to justify your value to society. Although I do have an answer for that after a lot of philosophizing about it. But it was fun for me. I got to do this kind of tutoring someone I care about. I felt like I was adding value to the world. So it started to become a hobby for me, and I started tutoring Nadia's brothers. They kind of started going on the same type of trajectory. I started getting other friends and family. People started to sign up for the free Sal tutoring pretty quickly. But a couple of things happened. One, well, I'll do it in the order that they happened. One, even with Nadia, and the internet's full of really good web resources. Like if we were doing least common multiple, I would kind of do a web search for least common multiple, and I'd find somebody who wrote some little JavaScript thing or had some web forms that had some questions. I'd say, hey Nadia, that looks like a good website. Why don't you do those 10 problems, and then we'll talk about them tomorrow. And then the next day I'd find some other website that had adding fractions, and why don't you do those 20 problems, and we'll talk about them tomorrow. So a couple of things happened. One is that became a pain to find all of these different things. But maybe the more relevant thing is I really couldn't trust what Nadia was saying when she said, I did those problems, or I didn't have any information about when she got a problem wrong, why she got it wrong, or whatever. So I actually started, and this is what people know less about, only some of y'all have explored the software a bit. At that time, videos weren't even on the horizon. I have a computer science background. I said, I'm going to write a piece of software. And it was fun for me because I was working at a hedge fund and I hadn't coded in a couple of years. And I said, I'm going to write a piece of software that will give Nadia and her brothers and whoever else, and I don't know if y'all can relate to this, but I had written a lot of software up to that point in my life. But the idea of even one person other than me using it was pretty exciting. And I had a captive audience. So I started writing the software for them, literally starting where they were, kind of generating problems for them. If they got stuck, it would give them steps. We'll show kind of the evolution of those as we fast forward. And it would generate problems in least common multiple or adding fractions. If they didn't know how to do something, it would give them the steps. And I was pretty proud of it. I would go show my buddies, at parties and say, hey, look at this. This teaches people mathematics. If it gives them infinite practice, if they don't know how to do things, if they get stuck, it gives them the steps. And I actually had a buddy say, oh, this is pretty cool, Sal, but you have these lectures that you're doing with your cousins. And you've already complained to me that you kind of have to do the same lecture over again, and your cousins sometimes don't remember something that you did last week. Why don't you put them on YouTube? And at first, I was completely dismissive. I thought YouTube's such a silly thing. It's for dogs on skateboards. It's not for a serious learning mathematics. And there was a certain bit of, and I think we all go through this whenever you want to do something new, is you go on YouTube and you're like, hey, it's done before. There was already video. I mean, in 2006, now we're fast forward a little bit, there was already a ton of mathematics content on YouTube, some of it from MIT and Stanford, and then a bunch of other teachers all around the world. And it was a mixed bag here and there. But I eventually said, why not give it a try? And I kind of looked literally in my room, and I said, well, I want to do this, but I don't want to buy anything new. So I didn't have a video camera. I did a search. I found some free screen capture software. I opened up Microsoft Paint. I made the background black, which is what I used to do with Nadia just because I liked the contrast. And I recorded the first video in 2006, and it was on least common multiple. And I made a couple. I made like 10 or 20. And it took like no time because I didn't care. I thought it was for my cousins, so I was completely informal. I just did them. In some of the early videos you see, I'm actively completely doing it on the fly. I still do it 80% on the fly, but then it was completely, I would be like, what am I going to talk about now? And then I would think about it. But a couple of things happened pretty fast. One was random people started emailing me, middle school students, high school students, parents, people retiring from the military, going back to college saying, I passed algebra because of this. Or I feel like I can be an engineer, and this was like 20 algebra videos. It was nothing. It was, I feel like I can be an engineer because of this, or I'm not going to drop out of high school because of this, or I now feel like after leaving the military, oh yeah, you have a question?
How did they find those videos?
So the question, how did they find the videos? It was literally the small subset of the world that would go on YouTube and say, gee, I would like to learn more about the vertex of a parabola. And they would type in vertex of the parabola, and something would pop up, and Khan Academy would show up. So that's, it was just random stumbling on it. And so that was pretty exciting for me. Now it's like, early on, it's like 20 or 30 non-relatives were watching this content, and it starts to get in my brain, wow, not only can they watch it, but maybe when word gets out, maybe more people can watch it. My cousins can watch it. Maybe future family members could watch it. Maybe my future great-great-grandchildren can watch it. So I started to get a little bit excited about the notion because, and this is kind of an interesting point, whenever you whenever you talk to people in the Valley, the content doesn't scale. They'll say you should build a platform because content never scales. But the reality of this content is if Isaac Newton had done calculus lectures on YouTube, I'd have nothing to do. Like it inherently scales. It actually scales better than the actual platform. Platform you might have to. Oh yeah.
Newton frequently lectured at completely empty halls.
Oh, there you go.
They couldn't. No, the problem is they couldn't understand him. It was such a new
so
idea.
that's it. So maybe Isaac Newton wouldn't have been that good. So there would have been, but between Isaac Newton and me, there would have been someone who would have been pretty good at lecturing it, I would think. And so the content scales pretty well. And then the other, and this was kind of an aha moment. It was a bit of a backhanded compliment. The first feedback I got from my cousins was that they preferred me on YouTube than in person. And I think the takeaway there is actually pretty profound, because they're saying that they prefer something that is zero incremental cost, that's scalable, that's to something that's expensive and resource intensive. And not only comparable, but better. But when you really think about it, I would have never guessed that until they told me, but then when you think about it, it's completely obvious. When you have this live interaction with your cousins, and I felt it when I would tutor Nadia or Arman or Ali, I would sometimes ask a question. Do you get this? I would do it in my least judgmental, most patient voice. But they were scared, and they would be like, oh, yeah, I get it. And I didn't know what to make of it. Do I doubt them? What do I do? And they probably didn't get it, or they got it 90%, but they didn't want to feel judged by their cousin who was spending his time to do it. But with the YouTube videos, no judgment there. You can pause, repeat as you want. If you want to get remediated, something Sal mentioned 3 weeks ago, or something you should have learned 3 years ago, no fear, no fear of a stigma. You can just go watch that video. You can, and it's a 10-minute video, so it's literally you're jumping in and you're getting just that nugget of information you want. And you can do it at your own time and at your own pace and all of that. So that's make a long story short, the videos, I got excited about it. And so I just kept doing it. My wife we moved out here to California. The hedge fund I was working at, the portfolio manager, his wife became a professor at Stanford Law, actually. And so we moved the firm over. We were a two-person firm at the time, but we moved the firm over here. And my wife was a medical resident, so I had a ton of time. So I literally just kept going. And here's the other kind of interesting thing that happened. Whenever I would tell anyone about this, they tell me content doesn't scale, and then once they saw, oh, that's pretty good what you're doing, but they're like, there's no way you can tackle all of this. What you should do is you should create a hub for education videos, and you should crowdsource it to the world of teachers, and we'll use analytics to get the best teachers, and we'll have, because people learn in different styles, and all of this type of thing. And I agreed with them. I thought that was, I have my MBA, and that's how you get other people to do your work, type of thing. That's a good idea. And actually, I tried to recruit people. I was like, this is the model. I built a platform here. Why don't quantum physics? Why don't you come over? I'll set you up, and you start making quantum physics videos. French history. Why don't you start doing French history videos? And frankly, it was just hard to get people. A lot of people, would be excited about doing it, but when you actually came down to sitting down, doing something free for some, they weren't too excited about it. But at the same time, I just kept going. It was just kind of almost an addiction for me. And once I had like 50 algebra videos, and this is pretty early on, I was like, that's pretty good coverage of first year algebra. Actually, probably algebra 1 and algebra 2. Now we have 400 algebra videos, and frankly, now we have like 10 versions of every single possible question you might get in algebra 1 or algebra 2. But the first 50 or 60 videos really covered it. And I was like, well, gee, maybe I could do geometry. 50 videos later, hey, that's pretty good. If someone understands that, they're pretty good at geometry. Then fast forward then I decided to tackle calculus, 90 videos. Hey, that's like first year calculus. And the viewership on the site kept going. And then it kind of got in my brain, hey, this could actually be, like, just me by myself, I could actually tackle everything. It was kind of like this kind of, I don't know, a Forrest Gump trying to run across the country type of challenge for me. You know, can I teach everything? And so I just kept going, and it was interesting because, you know, whenever you'd show, you'd show someone, hey, look, I did some algebra videos. They'd say, oh, that's cute. You did algebra, but, you know, can you do something fancy like calculus? And then I would go out and I'd do a bunch of calculus videos. Okay, it works well for mathematics, but what about for science? What about for biology? And then I would go and do, you know, some cosmology or biology, and I would do a bunch there. And then say, okay, it works well for math and science. Does it work well for humanities? And then there's actually 20 French history videos on the Khan Academy, and actually, almost every challenge, it almost seems to even work better because you can get maps up there and you can draw diagrams of where Napoleon's armies went and all of the rest. So that's where we are now with the 2,000 videos. And this whole time, the viewership kept getting bigger and bigger. And you fast forward to about 18 months ago, and I was an analyst at a hedge fund here in Palo Alto at a different hedge fund. And this just got too exciting. We were now at like kind of on the order of several tens of thousands of views per day. Video views, and wow. I forgot how many, I think on the order of about 100,000 unique users a month about 18 months ago. And we started to get a little bit of recognition. It started to seem like a legitimate thing. I mean, you gotta remember, up to this point, I felt like I was kind of on the fringe, and sometimes I still feel that way, but we started to get some recognition, and I started to get excited about it, and so I kind of just took the plunge. And just to give a little bit of background, 2 years before that, once I kind of got on this mission that, hey, we could teach everything, we incorporated as a 501c3 not-for-profit. And so I, in 2009, in the fall of 2009, I said, well, you know what? This is such a high social return on investment, right? It's not like, this isn't like a charter school or anything else in education philanthropy where, okay, you can give $1 and that dollar might teach some kids for maybe that year, and then if that, and it would be a small number of kids, and then if that dollar disappeared, then that investment has no return. Here, the dollar builds something that has infinite social return. Those videos scale forever. People might use it in 300 years. It just keeps, if I got, you know, God forbid, if I got hit by a bus, the videos keep teaching. Even if you just have to pay for, actually, you don't have to pay for anything. It's all on YouTube, even if khanacademy.org were to go down. So I decided to take the plunge, and I quit my job and decided to live off of savings for a little bit. And I took literally the most naive approach ever to starting a not-for-profit. I didn't want to write a grant. I didn't want to do anything other than make math videos. So I would literally just be in my closet day and night making math videos until fast forward to, and I started to get a little stressed after about 7 or 8 months, and no one was saying, hey, this is a brilliant idea. Here's $1 billion for you to teach the world. But then things actually did end up working out in the summer of 09. So this is summer of 010. This is very recent now. John and Ann Doerr said, oh, we love what you're doing, and they had given a donation. I said, oh, this is the biggest donation ever. And they're like, what? You're not making any money, or you don't even have a salary? And then like, you need a salary. So I had a salary. And then fast forward a little bit more. And actually, at the same time, two somewhat surreal things happened. I mean, that was pretty surreal in and of itself. But the other surreal things, early 2010, some people at Google said, hey, you know, we hear about what you're doing. We'd like you to kind of show up and talk to some people here at Google. I said, oh, yeah, sure. I went with my little slide deck, and I went in, and then they just asked me, you know, what would you do at $2 million? And I said, oh, well, I would do, and I'll show you what we would do at $2 million. And then you fast forward a little bit beyond that. This is now, but it was just a completely exploratory kind of conversation. And just a little tidbit, the software part that we had kind of left off, that I had started working on, that's the thing that would require maybe $2 million. And then the other thing that happened, in August of this year, I got literally, I was like, I actually ran this little summer camp just to experiment with kids on, like, you know, they're making like Lego sumo bots and things like that. And while I was doing that, I got a text message from Ann Doerr, who was at the Aspen Institute, saying, Bill Gates is talking about you right now to 2,000 people. And I thought this is some kind of, you know, I didn't think Ann would be someone to kind of write prank texts, but, you know, this has all of the markings of one. And I didn't know, you know, how to digest that, but literally like 2 days later, I got a call from Bill Gates' chief of staff saying, oh, you probably know Bill, all he does, for the past 9 months, he's been watching your videos. And I don't know all he does. I know this is, but apparently, I mean, I don't want to speak for him, but it was along those lines. He's been watching a lot of the videos, and he'd love. Oh, what was that? Oh yeah. He's it makes me want to raise my production value a little bit. But and he's like, and he'd like to meet you. Are you available? And I said, I think I can move around my schedule a little bit. if I make something work out. And so he too wanted to support us. And so fast forward now, but between the Gates Foundation and Google, we've had funding, and we now have a core team of 5 people. And I want to talk a little bit about what we're building now with the actual funding. So I'm continuing to race forward and just keep making a ton of videos. Okay, there's no internet connection.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. I made some assumptions about, but yeah. But they're all there in Khan Academy. Yeah.
I'm looking at your site right now, actually.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm surprised at some of the topics you have on here.
Oh, what surprises you?
Strong acid titration.
Yes, that's riveting.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You said a lot of the videos you weren't really gonna do on the fly. Mm-hmm. So when you started getting more popular, did you feel a sense of responsibility to kind of do more research?
To prepare?
Yeah.
The question is, when I started this, I talked about doing videos on the fly, and once I started getting some more notoriety, did I feel pressure to essentially make them better, to prepare? And in between, I do know what I'm going to make the video on before I press record now. So I am at least at that level. But one of the points of feedback, and this happened early on. There's a video really early on where a telemarketer from I won't say from what gets on tape, but a telemarketer called, and I didn't even feel like pressing pause on the record, and I literally answered the telemarketer call right there. No, I don't want Dish Networks, and I just kind of hung up, and it turned people love that. People, yeah. They love it. It feels like we're sitting next to each other at my place, and we're just hanging out and doing math problems. It actually felt more human than even what you often get in kind of a human interaction. Right there.
So, this whole wide range of subjects, do you remember all of it, or is there another site you go to brush up on?
So, we all know Wikipedia is a great source of information, but it's not accessible. So, especially for kids or something like that. So, my question is, do you research it and then make it kind of?
Yeah. So the questions are: one, do I know everything, or do I need to somehow prepare? And then the other thing is, how do I research or any of that? So the early videos, when I was literally doing, pre-algebra, algebra, calculus, and all the rest from my cousins, a lot of that came from introspection. Literally, okay, if you need to know fractions, you should know negative numbers, and you should know, okay, you need to have to find a common denominator. So let me make a video on least common multiple, and then that can lead to. So it was complete introspection. Once I started doing things like acid-base titration. I would bone up a little bit on it, or cosmology, or I'm going to do a video tomorrow on the Eurozone credit crisis, and I'm going to make sure that I have all of the data right. So there is an element of that, and frankly, that's what makes it super fun for me, is that now my life, and I want to do this literally until I die, is I get to learn everything I want, and I'm motivated, and I can kind of show off that I learned it, and I get to teach it, and I get to do that day and night for a living. So there's a ton of stuff that I might start doing some healthcare policy stuff. I'm not an expert right now, but I'll immerse myself in it. And I think what people like about it is I take a very kind of logical approach. If I'm sometimes I'll read 10 textbooks, and they keep saying obviously A means B. I'm like, it's not so obvious that A means B, and every book says obviously A means B, and eventually And I try to think about it. How could A mean B? I try to diagram it. I can't figure it out. I still don't make the video yet because I really want to give people that connection, and I don't want to do what the books are doing. And I'll eventually end up calling a grad student friend or a friend who's a professor someplace. And I was like, okay, you're an expert at this. And this is a really stupid question, but every book I'm reading says A obviously leads to B. Now explain to me why that is. And I'd usually either get one of two answers. Oh, you know what? Actually, that's an area of open research. or you know what? I've always wanted to know that too, but I was too afraid to ask. It's like one of these basic questions. So I have this luxury of almost being this outsider, jumping into these and not being afraid to, and I think that's one of the things about Khan Academy videos. I think why it's gotten traction with people, just the videos by themselves, is I don't make logical jumps. I literally try to get everything down so that they're completely common sense. So it's completely obvious. A means B because of C, D, and F. And so yeah. So I think that's one of the things that really appeals to people. Yeah, there in the back.
So it sounds like your background is math, science, or something like that. So I can understand how you would manage to do the mathy.
Yeah.
And I'm just sort of thinking about like French literature, or some kind of humanities, social studies. And then in that context, I'm thinking if a high school teacher would just look at you, without any really prep, and how does that make them feel?
Two questions. The perception based on maybe how I carry myself is that I have a quantitative background, maybe. But so one is, how am I tackling like humanities? And the second question is, how does a teacher, actually a humanities teacher or a math teacher, how would they react to what's going on? So the simple answer, I think there are some domains that are way out of, I'll never be able to teach French language. I can't speak French. That's something that, immersing yourself for months or weeks isn't enough. Like, you really have to experience the language. But things like French history, actually history in general, I'll use history as an example. Every history book I ever read, when people talk about the Holy Roman Empire, I'm like, where is that? Like, where is the Holy Roman? I need to see a map. I need to see diagrams. And usually there weren't any. So I think once again it kind of goes. It's a combination of storytelling and really just logical connections. Why did Napoleon sell Louisiana? Well, because his naval fleet was completely blown away. Sometimes that's not covered. So I think bringing a kind of someone who loves to see logical connections and causality, I think is a good take on things. And then there's a storytelling aspect, and that's just a style thing. Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
Well, I'm not a humanities person either, but I mean, I'm just still trying to understand. So what is the value out of the teacher?
So the question is the value out of the teacher. So this is what we're trying. This is what some teachers have emailed. So some people when they see this, oh, is this going to replace teachers with YouTube videos and all the rest? And no, it actually humanizes the teaching. The model. So put all this. I'll talk about the software in a second. Put all that aside. Just the videos, and some teachers have emailed me saying this is what they do now. They have flipped their classroom model. Instead of them giving, so I could be a human being and there could be 80 people in the room, but that one size fits all lecture is kind of an impersonal experience. It's actually almost more impersonal, the fact that we're all there in the room together, but we're not able to really interact. And so what they're doing now is that they're saying, well, Sal's, especially in the areas where we have a lot of coverage, like, look, Sal's already covered those videos. People can pause, repeat, watch at their own pace, move ahead if they're bored. They can remediate if they need to. So instead of giving a lecture in the classroom and assigning problems for homework, I'm going to flip the model. I'm going to assign Sal's Khan Academy lectures as homework and then use class time to actually do exercises. And what you have there is, it's actually a pretty interesting flip. It completely humanizes the classroom experience. You no longer have 30 or 40 or 80 people in a room doing this, and a teacher lecturing and staring at faces that aren't the most expressive. All of a sudden, you have an environment where people are doing exercises. They're able to get help from their peers. Interaction is actually encouraged. The teacher can walk around, help students, and even better, the teacher can actually see in real time how the students are doing. They actually get that formative assessment that people talk about. Right now, the only assessment teachers get, they give that lecture, homework happens, the next day they might review a little bit of homework, then another lecture happens. Usually, and the lectures are more theoretical, homework is more practical. And the kids are, at home doing it. Maybe if they're lucky, they might have a parent or sibling who could help them if they're lost. That cycle continues for a couple of days or weeks, and then, bam, you have this assessment, this exam, this test. And that test, you get 70%, you get 80%, you get 90%. If you get 95%, doesn't matter. You kind of just get this label A, B, C, D, or whatever. Move on to the next concept, which is crazy. Even the 95%, especially in math or science, even the 95%, you didn't know 5%. I mean, maybe it was careless mistakes, but maybe it was like you don't know what happens when you raise something to the 0th power. Or maybe you don't know some particular case. And now you're going to build up on top of that. And in math or science, you're almost doomed that you're not going to get 100% on the concept that builds on top of it. So here, the teacher can actually see what's going on before that, that assessment where everyone has to move on. So the simple answer, I actually think it frees up the teacher to actually spend more time. One thing I tell a lot of people, everyone's focused on a student to teacher ratio as the main metric for how much intimacy there is in the classroom. The real metric should be student to actual interaction with the teacher ratio. And that actual interaction with the teacher, so if you think about a teacher's time right now, it's, and some of y'all are teachers, it's maybe 50% preparing for lectures and giving lectures, maybe 50% or 45% grading and writing exams, and then it's like 5% actually interacting with students, and that 5% is usually students at the extremes, the best students or the worst students, and everyone else is. Here, and I will talk about the software in a little bit, but just with the videos, you get rid of that lecture part. And so you're really freeing up, you're really leveraging the teacher a lot more. Yeah, question over there?
How many gigabytes of video have you produced so far? And have you also considered mapping it to curriculum? Like Algebra 2 videos, things like that?
Yeah, so the question is how many gigabytes of video, and then have I considered mapping it to curriculum? So it depends what format. In the raw format, it's huge, but once they're on YouTube, they're like 4 or 5 megabytes of video. And actually, so you can actually download it all on BitTorrent, and all of the and other places too. It's on archive.org and other places. But all of the videos actually now fit on a stick, on like a 8 gigabyte stick. And so there's actually an image. It's called Khan Academy on a Stick. Someone built, where you literally can just download that image onto a memory stick. What was the second question?
How do you map it?
Mapping to curriculum.
So Algebra 2, calculus, whatever. Yeah.
Oh, so there's a very rough mapping. When you go to the site, they're
but it
organized.
doesn't specifically to like California curriculum.
Oh yeah. So specific standards. So haven't done it yet. We're actually in process of mapping it to the Common Core. So that's an in-process thing. Although I don't think it will be the main. In fact, it definitely won't be the main navigation. I'm actually a much bigger fan of like Learn Math as opposed to standard A.2.3, which kind of is a little sometimes unnatural. Mapping
to the actual textbook.
Which so
actually would be the best benefit for the students because then they can.
So the question is mapping to the textbook. My goal is that they don't need a textbook.
But I don't think they're ready yet.
What's a
teachers
textbook?
are not ready yet. But
I'll show you some of the data from a pilot where they're not using a textbook. So what does a textbook do? It does two things. It has some prose in it that's supposed to teach you in some way, right? Like some text. And then it has, 50 problems at the end of each section, and it has the answers to every other problem in the back of the book. And that's the practice. So it's some type of instruction, some type of practice. I'd make a pretty good argument. I think on-demand video, even by the guy who wrote that textbook, if he had done that as a lecture, in this type of style, that would have been more interesting for the students than that prose. Frankly, I think the one thing that probably allows a lot of us to succeed, and I include the people in this room or a lot of the peers that I've seen do good at math and science, is that we were the small percentage of people who are capable of reading that prose in textbooks. That we can actually read a math textbook, but that's like maybe 5% of the population that can actually read a math textbook and learn the mathematics. And that's why it allowed us to get all essentially be in this room. But most people aren't like that. And so I see kind of the textbook maybe going more as a reference, but the primary learning tool will be some type of on-demand video. And then exercise, and I'll show you this. No feedback, no actual steps. The textbook publisher gets no data on which exercises are actually getting done. They have no data on each version of the textbook. Is it getting any better? Are people actually using those sections? Are they actually reading those sections? So I think kind of an online problem generator can do a lot of that better. Question here?
On the slide, it wasn't obvious to me for a particular topic, which is there sort of a first in the series? Is that?
Yeah, so the question is, where do you start on the videos? And, so this is So there is a search bar at the top, and you literally can just, wherever you want to jump in. And then there's some drop downs there. We're working on the user interface. It's kind of an interesting debate of, do you put 2,000 links on one page and, or not? And we could go there if you like. We think we have some good reasons for doing that. But there is a drop down where if you go to math, and you'll see a drop down, and it starts at arithmetic, and it kind of goes in order of progression. And actually, there's a video I've made on kind of an overview of the library, depending on where you are, where you might want to start, if you're just doing the videos. But that's actually, yeah?
So what makes this so popular? Is it your brilliant development of curriculum? Is it your brilliant ability to explain things? Or is it just the right time at the right moment and you got the first?
So your question, what makes it so popular? And your last point was it the right time, right moment, and we're the first? Yeah. That's definitely not the case. Not the first person. The idea of revolutionizing education with video kind of came about, actually when TV came about, people started to think seriously about that. Actually, I think when radio came about, people thought this is going to revolutionize education. Then TV, then the VCR. Okay, now we've done it. It's going to be kind of on demand. People can get the best lectures. It's not a new idea. And then you fast forward 2001, MIT OpenCourseWare, Stanford has their OpenCourseWare, and then there's a ton of stuff on YouTube before I even showed up. So it's definitely not the first. What I think, and I don't want to toot my horn. I think what it is it's human on some level. It's literally, if you watch the video, it's not someone at a whiteboard talking like this to the class, and you feel really detached from the teacher, which is what most lectures are like. It's literally I talk in the same tone that I'm talking right now, conversational. Whether I'm teaching vector calculus or 1+1, I don't talk down. I try my best not to do that, because that's what really turns people off. I think, when a kindergartner walks into class and the teacher starts talking like this, I think that really, and then they go home and they play like whatever, I'm dating myself, like Sonic the Hedgehog that's like moving around like, they don't so I think there's some of that. And I think, so the conversationality, it's conversational, it feels human. I think the fact that, and this is a little bit unique, I decided to just chunk them up in 10 minutes. I think some of the stuff, some of the other OpenCourseWare out there is great, but I'm actually a huge consumer of the Stanford stuff, the MIT stuff, when I want to prepare for something more advanced, say organic chemistry. And I'm like, I just have a question. I just want to understand exactly, how does entropy relate to this concept right here? That's all I want to understand. So I'm digging through the MIT thermodynamics lectures, and they're literally like lecture 8. Lecture 9, and they're each 90 minutes long. And so I'm going through them, and then they have all the classroom stuff going on, and at some point the screen goes black because some lawyer has redacted something because of copyright restrictions. So it's just a really hard way to. I don't know if it's public info, but these OpenCourseWare, they actually spend a surprising. Let me put it this way: they spend more money than the entire budget of the Khan Academy on lawyers to redact stuff from lectures. And I've even told them, I was like, spend that money, instead of just putting a camera in a room, why don't you pay professors that money to redo their lectures in this style? And so you don't have to redact anything. So I think there's that there. And I think there's a little bit of this, I'm obsessed with making a logical connection between everything, making it all, distilling it down to common sense. And I think students like that. The fact that I never say, just memorize this. This is beyond you. I say, look, let's try to understand how we got there. If it really is beyond you, I will make the proof, and I'll say, look, this is optional, but it's there if you want it. And people like the fact that there's this logical connection between every video, that you can literally kind of prove everything that's on there right now. There in the back.
What are the drivers behind how you decide what new content you want to develop for the site?
Yeah, so the question is how do I decide what content I want to develop? The simple answer is what I'm in the mood for. But seriously, it's a combination of need. Obviously, what was that? There's tons of user requests. So there's a lot of need. A lot of people have trouble with calculus or trigonometry or whatever. I've done all 405 SAT math problems in from 10 practice tests because there's a huge need for that. So some of its interest. When I was working at a hedge fund and the whole financial crisis was going on. We actually thought it was irresponsible to invest there, so we parked all our money in cash, and I just like kept reading the Federal Reserve Act like over and over and over again, and I was learning a ton. And I would learn a ton, and I would watch CNBC, and I was like, man, they're so wrong. And I mean, sometimes they are like the Treasury Secretary, are so wrong, like it's completely misinformation. And so I would say I should make a video on this, and I should make a video on how the Federal Reserve. So that sometimes is. I mean, it was another surreal moment. October of 2008, I got a call from CNN saying, our reporters are watching your videos before they report on the financial crisis. And I know they had me on explaining, the whole thing. And
Did they have a request?
no, they had me on. I actually very controversially suggested instead of bailing out the banks to use that $700 billion, which was larger than the book value of all of the banks that they were going to capitalize. Remember, the real value of these banks was like negative. The book value is what they're saying it's worth. The $700 billion is larger than the value of all of those banks combined on paper. I said, start new banks. Like, let those, darn things fail. Like, buy the buildings and the employees and the computer systems from those guys and let the things fail. And, why don't you, instead of having them all in New York, why don't you separate them and put them, where, anyway. That was, yeah, but I got, yeah, so, but that was pretty fun. They didn't do it, though, obviously. The banks, that's the, yeah, question right there.
How much curriculum have you done out of the whole that you think you can do? And I wouldn't put it in terms of grade 1 to 8 or high school, because I don't know how much there is to do in college, but what do you think you've accomplished versus what there is left?
Yeah, so the question is a bit about coverage. How much have I done relative to K through 12 or whatever, and then how much do I think I can do? So the site right now, I would say has, depending on the subject in mathematics, K through 12 or K through calculus mathematics, it has, I would say, 98% coverage. I mean, every now and then someone sends me a problem or a standard that has a slightly nuanced approach to some type of concept. I was like, well, I haven't covered it exactly that way. Let me do another video on it. But it's pretty comprehensive for K through calculus mathematics. It's, I would say, 80% comprehensive for first-year college biology. Probably, 80% comprehensive for first-year college chemistry. Linear algebra, I actually did it I actually really like the Stanford linear algebra course, so I used a progression very similar. So I actually get a letter from a lot of Stanford students, because it goes pretty much in line with the Stanford linear algebra course. I just like the fact that they teach matrices later, and you have the motivation of transformations and all of that, as opposed to early on that most linear algebra.
It actually raises, so do you get attacked by creationists?
So the question is the biology question, do I get attacked by creationists? And this is interesting because, when I did biology, I was actually always frustrated that biology is taught in the order of the discovery of biology. They always start with like kingdom, phylum, class order, and then Mendel, and then this, and then they finally get to DNA and Darwin and all of that. And I was like, well, that's not really biology. I mean, if you went to if you went to some planet that maybe there is no DNA or something there. If you wanted to understand biology, you would have to understand natural selection. That is biology. That's the core of biology. So that's actually where the Khan Academy biology videos start. And it's not trying to be controversial or anything. It's just that is biology. But what's surprising is I do get a lot of letters from creationists, and homeschoolers love the Khan Academy for obvious reasons. And actually, to the level, there's actually a white supremacy group that loves the Khan Academy. That But they love it. They love it for obvious reasons. They don't have to. It's a very kind of. I don't want to get into a political discussion, but it has libertarian kind of a flavor to it.
They just don't like the lecturer.
They don't seem to mind. It's amazing when
They don't see him.
I actually read their message boards. I've been intrigued by them. They write, what would Sal think of this? I mean, they know that I'm not white, and someone replied, oh, he wouldn't mind. This allows us to compete with the Asians and the Jews and the, No, that's true, but it does. I mean, they're right. I mean, that's good. About the evolution thing, the interesting thing is, despite I start with evolution, and there's a lot of people who don't like that, it's actually a very respectful, like it's not what you see on like CNN or Fox or like people getting angry and say, no, people say, I love what you're doing, this is helping homeschool my kid, I respectfully disagree with you about this is just a theory or this and that, and you have to understand Genesis is saying, you know, and I respect that. It's actually very respectable kind of disagreement when it comes to.
Amazon, I mean, a certain department chairman in a particular building we may have actually brought this up on one of the Friday lunches, and in fact, I looked at the particular book that Stanford's biology department used. You look in the Amazon, you got these 5-6 stars by people who really don't know, but then all of a sudden you give them 1 star.
Oh yeah, for the creationists. Yeah, no, we don't have that. I mean, they're there, but it hasn't been bad so far. Question.
So when I looked at your site 6-9 months ago, a lot of videos.
Yeah.
But now I noticed that you have some tests and questions and all that.
So maybe I can show you the other 20 slides. No, I just really have them there for kind of show and tell. So it's not, it's very unstructured. So this is kind of the modern version of those exercise things that I started off with my cousins. Oh, either way. I could just either way. Oh, there's a laser pointer. Okay. But this is a modern. Actually, I mean the code that actually generates the exercises is some of it's the exact same code that I started with in 2005. But the idea here, so we call this a module or an exercise, and literally it'll generate an infinite number of, what we call level 1 Pythagorean theorem problems, which literally will give you, 2 sides of a right triangle and ask you to find the 3rd side of the right triangle. And if you don't know how to do it, you can click hint, and it'll give you the actual steps to figure out that problem, and it'll highlight the sides and do all of that type of thing for you. If you have absolutely no clue of what even the hints are talking about, segment EF is 3, what does that mean? You can click watch video, and then the actual Khan Academy videos from that library that are relevant to this concept will actually show up. You have a question right here?
Why did you do this at all? Why not make more videos? I mean, you must have thought of something to...
Yeah, so the question is, why do this at all? So the answer is, this is the thing I started before I even made the first video, before I even realized that videos were a good idea. And then once the videos kind of took off, making a module like this, it would take me anywhere from a day to a week to write something for like the Pythagorean theorem, a type of module. And to make a video on this, it would take me like, I can make 3 videos in an afternoon. So it seemed like there was a much higher return on the videos. So that's what I did. So this kind of took a back seat. But even when I still had about 60 or 70 concepts at that point. And in 2008, I actually had to shut this down because too many people were using it. Because it was on like my $50 a month web hosting, and it was just completely crashing it. So I actually did not allow people to sign up for this. And then in early 2010, when I was doing this full time, I decided to take a month off, and I ported this to App Engine just so it could, I didn't have to do like connection pooling and stuff y'all know more about. I was just like, it's just, and so then I could open it up again, and then once Google asked me what would you do at $2 million, and other people said support, I was like, you know what, this would take it to the next level. I mean, if you really want to learn something, the videos are great. That's kind of a lecture, on demand, pause, repeat. But people really need to get practice and feedback. And this is what I point out to people. We talked about that. Oh, you had a question?
Yeah. This brings to mind, our society is completely quiz crazy, right?
Yes.
I think you have to pass standardized exams. Have any of you people who've gone through your system tried to deal with these crazy standardized exams?
The question is, have people who've gone through this, have to deal with standardized exams? I mean, anecdotally, we get a lot of letters from people saying, hey, I went through this, I spent the summer on this, and I went to my community college, and I got every problem right on the placement exam. Or I got, and I don't think this is the complete math education, but what this does is it really makes sure you have a good scaffold of mathematics, that you really can walk into pretty much any standardized exam, and you know what you're doing. Nothing is unfamiliar. You've seen a problem like that. You've done problems like that. And also what's happening here, we talked about that cycle of lecture, homework, couple of days, couple of weeks, then assessment, then you move on, and everyone has to go at the same pace. This actually all of those things that take multiple weeks to happen, they actually happen with every interaction here. I mean, the instruction, you get that through the videos, or you get it through the actual hints in the problem. The practice, obviously, is generating as many problems as you need. And the paradigm here is actually you have to get 10 in a row to be deemed proficient in any one of these things. So it's not 90, and this is, and it's a small, subtle point, but it's actually really important to how people actually learn things. When you're on a bicycle, you're learning to ride a bicycle, you don't say, oh, I know this 95% well, let me move on to the next concept. And you're also not afraid of falling over a couple of times. You're like, okay, I fell over the first time, second time, I'm just going to keep riding until I ride this bike really well, and then I'm going to try out a unicycle or something like that. Right now our system says, okay, you can ride a bike 80% well, here's a unicycle. You're now ready for the next concept. So what this does is 10 in a row, we have a pretty good sense that you've probably seen every type of problem. You've even gotten a couple of your careless mistakes out of the way, and now you're ready to build on what you just learned. You get feedback. You press check answer, it tells you whether you got it right or wrong. And you get assessment. It's keeping track of everything. And I'll show you some of the data that we're keeping track of. It's keeping track of when you're doing the problem, how long it's taking, does it seem like you're having trouble. We have a bunch of game mechanics here. You see these energy points right over here. And we also have badges, and I'll show you more of that. So this is just another module, just to give you an idea of what they look like. This is inverse of a function. And when you click hint, it actually shows you kind of the graph of the inverse and all of that type of thing. And this right here, this we call our knowledge map. And each square that you see here is one of those modules, one of those exercises that I just showed you. So this one at the top, this is literally like problems like single-digit addition. This one over here is one two-digit number plus a single-digit addition. This right here is single-digit multiplication. That's single-digit subtraction. So as you get 10 in a row, so this is just, this was actually my account. I'm just messing around. I got 10 in a row on single-digit addition. It greened it for me. Now it says that I should, actually I got credit for it. I actually got 10 in a row on single-digit addition, on double-digit addition. But as you get 10 in a row right, it keeps pushing you to go to build up on what you already know. And so that kind of assessment, in kind of education jargon, that's formative assessment, right? That's keep doing it until we feel pretty good that you've learned it, right? That's formative assessment. And then we've recently implemented what we call them challenges, but they're really summative assessment. And I'll show you kind of the badging infrastructure we're building. But like this arithmetic challenge, once you become proficient in each of those, so you can do 10 in a row of each of those types of concepts, then it'll say, hey, you should do the arithmetic challenge. And we have all of these bells and whistles, and you feel good about yourself if you pass the arithmetic challenge. And what that is you have to get 10 streaks of 10 in a random sampling of concepts that are from these modules. So kind of the covering set of all of the arithmetic concepts. And to really just make sure that you really know arithmetic, and you get all sorts of points and all of that. And so this knowledge map right now, if you go all the way, this is zoomed out. It actually does use Google Maps. If you zoom all the way down, we're starting to build some pre-calculus and calculus concepts right now. But the Google funding is actually to cover every concept on the software K through calculus. And so we should probably have that in the next 2 years. And we'd love to have volunteers, and we are looking for interns and even a few hires. So if this is exciting to build, let us know. So,
CS question. When you started out writing code when you were still at the hedge fund, I was just curious what language or what.
Okay, so the question, when I first started writing code, what languages? At first it was, the actual problem generator was JavaScript. And then the server-side stuff was Java server pages, and I had like a MySQL database. Now it's all an App Engine, so the back end is, the front end is still JavaScript, but now it's Python and the Google Data Store. This is the badging infrastructure. So this challenge patch, this is what you get if you pass one of those challenges, those summative assessments. These are other badges depending on prestige. We're soon going to have leaderboards based on class, district, age group, states. We actually have our own dashboards where we can keep track of system-wide how many people have achieved these badges. No one has a black hole badge yet. That's actually because we haven't defined what a black hole is. But like, to get a sun badge, you have to finish 80 modules, or you have to, each of these are in orders of prestige. This is actually a meteorite. I call it the rock badge. But this is, and these are pretty, if you go log in now, within 5 minutes, you'll get a couple of these. But they get harder and harder to get. And you can see, some of the moon badges. This is a journeyman arithmetician. Last achieved. Oh, it doesn't say what I have to do. Okay, here it says. So apprentice arithmetician, achieve proficiency in addition 1, subtraction 1, multiplication 1, division 1. Then there's badges. If you do something in the top 10% of speed, you get a badge for that. If you're really fast at a certain type of concept, or if you do a ton of problems in a certain type of concept. This is the kind of data that we're going to deploy next week. This is actually a dashboard for yourself, for the students. And right now it's private. And in the future, we might make it so if a student's really proud of it, and it's their choice, they can either make it public within Khan Academy or even expose it to Facebook. And this is actually from a pilot at Los Altos right now. This is data from a 5th grader. And just to get a paradigm of what's going on, they've actually This is their math curriculum, the core of their math. They're spending half their time doing this and then half their time doing projects. How high is that hill? Let's try to estimate it or whatever. And so what happens is all the kids go into the room. They all work at their own pace on this. And the teacher, and I'll show you the dashboard, the teacher has a dashboard that just highlights who's stuck, highlights who's having trouble. And so the teacher, instead of giving a lecture or doing homework, all they do is they kind of jump around the class. They're watching everyone. And if someone's stuck, or if two people are stuck on that concept, they take those two kids aside and they do a very focused intervention on just those two kids. And this is happening right now in Los Altos. And even better, and the next level is, if two kids are stuck on a concept and there's another kid who already knows it, why don't you have that kid try to tutor those two kids first, but before the actual teacher gets involved. And eventually we could keep data on how effective were those interventions and who's a really good teacher from a student point of view. But this right here, this is data on a student. This is from the student's profile page. This shows their activity over the last 30 days. Each of these right here are a day. The green bar shows the time spent on exercises. The blue bar shows the time spent on videos, and the teachers have access to this as well. The little that shows when they got badges. It shows the highest badge they got that day. This shows that they got proficiency in at least one exercise that day. When you roll over it, it actually shows a little bit more detailed drill down of what happened that day, how many energy points the student got. And the energy points, this energy points per day is this red plot right over here. And it shows that he watched 4 minutes, the subtracting decimals video, and then for 16 minutes he worked on, or she worked on, these 4 modules. This is a more detailed drill down by a given day, and it just shows by hour. And once again, teachers have access to this so they can see what's happening at home or at school. And once again, just a detailed drill down of everything that happened. It showed that he actually, or she actually got the arithmetic challenge within that hour. And it shows the little patch that she got from that. This is, because one of the points of feedback we got from, a lot of the students were moving ahead really fast and all of that, but some students were just like jumping around too much, and the teacher would go and try to figure out why they were stuck and not understand why they were not moving ahead like the other students. And so we created this to really just show where the student was focused. And so this is a measure. The outer ring shows it's essentially a pie chart of where they spent their time by exercise module. And you can see this is the absolute value, that's dividing fractions, that's angles. And the inside shows there's time spent on different videos. So they only watched one video over here, and if you roll over, it'll tell you what video they spent their time on. And this tells you all of the information. And if you roll over any of these areas, if you roll over the orange, it'll give you details like this. How much time did they spend on that orange? How many total problems? How many total correct problems without a hint? So on and so forth. And the star means that they've already gotten 10 in a row on that exercise. This is a dashboard that really gives a sense for the student of their completion. So you had that knowledge map before, and so that's always there, and that's kind of like a Legends of Zelda type of, where do I get to go next? But this is just their sense of completion. Green means they already got 10 in a row, and blue means that they're working on it right now, or they've at least attempted one exercise. And we're doing this because we really want, one, to give students a view, but we also want them to be motivated to move ahead, to challenge themselves. And actually, the other side effect, it's funny because I look at a lot of state standards and it's like, oh, students should understand a bar graph that has 2 axes and all of that. And I've always said the best way to learn statistics is if the statistics are about yourself. And I think 5th graders, and it's amazing how well 5th graders can read charts like this when it is about themselves. And we're going to add more and more charts as we get more, the distribution of all of the people on that module where you sit. I mean, just you can imagine. There's infinite stuff you could keep adding to it. This is just more of the badges. Oh, I'm going the wrong way. So that's another. This is actually the granularity. So on any one of those modules, if a teacher or a student wants to say exactly what happened, they can click on a module. So this is a student on one module, and it literally shows every problem they did. The first problem, they got it wrong. It took them about 280 seconds. They watched the video right after that, and then they got the next 11 problems right. And so they can draw. And actually, you can click on that bar and see the exact problem that they got wrong or right. This is just a recent activity that just so a teacher or student knows what they've been up to. That right there is just a line graph of how many modules they're achieving. So you can see on day 0, they just achieved a bunch of modules. And that's because it was all reviewed. This was a 5th grader, and they knew 1 + 1. They knew basic multiplication. So they just racked up a ton of modules on that first day. They just ramped up super fast. And then after that, they kind of got closer to their grade level. Maybe it was a little bit of review. And then the slope kind of leveled off. But it just gives a overall progress over the course of a class or whatever. This right here, this is the teacher dashboard. This is actually a snapshot of the teacher dashboard. I've zoomed it out really small actually for privacy reasons. But what you see here, every row is a student. Every row here, every column is one of those concepts, one of those exercises. And so the teacher walks in every morning, and actually it updates in real time, and says, okay, well look, everyone is proficient at that. There's all green there. Everyone's proficient at that. Over here, a couple of people are proficient. A bunch of other people are working on it. Some people haven't started, but no one's stuck. And stuck means you've done 100 problems, and statistically, 95% of people after doing 100 problems have moved on, but you haven't, so that would be stuck. And it's some kind of heuristic, whatever it might be. And so if you go here, there are actually some people stuck. And this would be the signal to the teacher, go intervene or get someone else to intervene to move these kids along. And actually, this is actually a live dashboard from 5th grade, and it's off the screen here, but there's a couple of kids doing the chain rule. Which, I mean, yeah, that's not a joke. This right here, this is actually just daily activity. This is the whole class. Each column here is the class. This is time spent during class time, which is in light blue. And this is time spent in the evening when the kids are at home. It was actually amazing. We checked on Christmas. A ton of kids were actually doing this as opposed to playing with the. So this is old data from a summer camp I ran a couple of years ago. But I always show this because at least to me, it kind of highlights the. I think all of us can appreciate, why self-paced learning is so important and all of that. But it kind of challenges you to even think of who is a strong student or who is a weak student. Right here, it's kind of that line graph that I showed you before. This axis right here is just days in the summer camp. This axis right here is just the number of modules completed. The black line is the class average. So after 4 days, the average student had completed 20 modules. And you can see a steep ramp because this was all review. And then it levels off a little bit. And then the green lines are a standard deviation above and a standard deviation below. And I highlight this I guess, mauve or purple or whatever. I highlight this student right here because in a traditional reality, she would, if you did a traditional pre-assessment here, she was clearly not with the rest of the class. She clearly was, she did not find some of these concepts to be reviewed. She wasn't progressing as fast as everyone else. And actually, you can look at the data. She was stuck on adding and subtracting negative numbers. And these were rising 7th graders, most of whom had already seen this a little bit. And so in a traditional assessment, you say she's a remedial student. Either let's slow down the class, let's track her into a different type of classroom, let's do something with her. But here, she could just do adding and subtracting negative numbers while everyone else could race ahead. But once she got through that, she just raced ahead through every single thing. And after 6 weeks, she was the second best. There's actually like 30 kids here. I didn't plot all of them. But she was actually the second best student in the class. And when she got to level 3 linear equations, which are like 7x minus 5 is equal to 5x plus 2, she just raced through them. She got the first 5 in a row right. She thought it was in. So if you looked at her here, you would say she's a gifted student. She should be tracked ahead. If you looked at her here, you would say she's a remedial student. So it kind of makes you think of. I mean, to some degree, I think the people who've done well, probably the people in this room, we were just lucky to never be in this situation. And so what we saw our whole career, and I think all of us have experienced, is smart friends and relatives just keep kind of falling off the wagon because they just get stuck at one thing like this and they never got a chance to remediate. Yeah. Yeah.
This happened because this was a summer class.
Yes.
This was not like a regular classroom because there was personal attention and stuff.
Yeah. So the question is, could this happen? I mean, because it was personal attention or. Yeah. I mean, the short answer is yes. But once again, I think this enables the personal attention, right? Like she actually could. I don't know actually whether a teacher helped her at this point to kind of get through this. But this is only possible for a teacher to even do that if you have something like this. And we're only going to improve it, but that's my gut sense. And actually, I met her, and she kind of anecdotally confirmed what the data said. Any other questions? I mean, I'm pretty much, and just to give you an idea, this is, everything I've talked about is like data for improving the student's learning or data about the student. But we actually have data on improving the content itself. And we're going to do it for the modules, but this is data that YouTube gives me on videos, and we're going to start generating some of our own data on this. But this is really attention span over the course of a video. It just measures drop-off rate relative to other YouTube videos at that point in time. And so if I see a video, and this has happened, where a video drops off like this, and I can go back to that minute or that second in the video, and I said orthogonality, and I never defined orthogonality in that video or previous video, I know why it just fell off a cliff. And so I can just redo that video. And so this is actually, I mean, it's a very simple thing, but it's, and we're actually taking the data now, so we'll actually not only have this, but we'll actually have a heat map based on where did people pause and repeat, or where did they go, and what videos did they stop watching and go to other videos. So we'll be able to do a lot more interesting analytics about how to perfect this hand-scrawled instruction. Any questions? Yeah, yeah, huh?
Yeah, so that brings up, are you doing user research? Where are you getting your feedback? How are you deciding which new features to put in?
Yeah, so the question is about user research. So we have this trial going on at Los Altos, and that's actually kind of our test bed. We have our, I go there, everyone in our organization, our developers, everything that you've seen, the initial development was me, but it looks a lot more polished now, and it's really 2 guys that joined 2 months ago. They spend a lot of time in the classroom talking to teachers, talking to students. They have a conference call every week with them. And it's literally just features that the students and teachers are asking for. Yep, back.
In Los Altos, that's a select group of children. Have you tried this?
Yeah. So the question is, I'm saying Los Altos. It's not a high-need community. I guess the one question is why Los Altos, and then have I tried it on another group? So a couple questions. The data that I showed you that from the summer camp, that actually was a high need group. That was the Peninsula Bridge, the summer program in the peninsula. It's for kids from low and middle income minority students who were So that was, but frankly, the reason why we did Los Altos is we weren't even planning on doing something like this. We thought, look, we're going to do what we want to do, standalone. If we try to go into school systems, it's going to be really hard and bureaucratic. But they came to us, and we're like, okay, if we want to do it, we don't want to do it like halfway. We want to do this every kid at their own pace. The teacher's going to have to, the same teachers, in a 5th grade teacher, I'm thinking about it, a 5th grade teacher now has to feel comfortable with kids doing the chain rule, and maybe raising their hand and asking the teacher about the chain rule, a 5th grade teacher. And so we're like, oh, there's no way they would want to do something like this. There's no way that the teachers would feel comfortable. But we said, look, this is what we think is the ideal model. And literally the next day, they're like, can we start in 2 weeks? And I think their motivation, because they have this problem that a good number of their 5th graders are already operating at 7th or 8th or 9th grade level. And, but the sum of the kids, God forbid, are still at 5th grade level. So how do you teach to that wide spread? And they recognize that this is really the only way that you could do this. So the teachers that have been doing this, they've been rock stars. They love it. They love the fact, and they're comfortable with the ambiguity, and they're comfortable with even the fact that they might not remember that from calculus, and they'll tell the students, and then they'll watch the videos together or whatever they might want to do. Yeah.
This ties in a little with what you said earlier. This types of ideas have been allowed for a very long time. I've been aware of this for almost 20 years, and people were doing it before that. And it never caught on. Like the full force and measure of thousands of teachers' unions and colleges and everything were very concerned with this not happening. Yeah. What do you think has changed that people are like, well, now we're really interested in doing this?
Yeah. So the question is,
what flip?
Yeah. So the question is, this. I'll be, at the Khan Academy, we have meetings all the time. Like everything we're doing is obvious. Everything we're doing is honestly obvious. And as you said, people have thought of this stuff for at least 20 years. I mean, even when Steve Jobs started Apple, he thought this is what a computer was going to be for. And it just never happened for inertia reasons, bureaucracy reasons, interest groups. I think, and I'm just speculating here, what's enabled us, I think there's one element. A lot of people started with the for-profit route. And the day you start the for-profit route, even if you have very generous VCs, how are you going to monetize it? And if they say the education market is $5 billion, and so, but you need to sell into the education market. And selling into the education market means convincing all of those parties that what you're doing will improve outcomes or whatever. And so you have to go and kind of try to move the beast. I like to say, it's not an easy thing to do. I think we took a nonprofit route. We're not one of these people who pretend that we're doing social good and then we look at our balance sheet. If we're going to do social good, be honest about it. Don't make it. Don't enrich yourselves off of it. And that's kind of freed us to think purely about the problem. Think purely about going straight to the student. Think purely about going straight to the teacher. It's amazing how many resources even don't cater to the teacher. They cater to the interest groups and the district level politics or whatever else. And it's free. I think that's that we're not trying to sell anything. And I think what people are seeing is, I think the other thing is, you have massive organic adoption, where you have teachers and students on themselves saying, what, this is genuinely useful for myself, even just the videos, and then that kind of, there's kind of a low-hanging fruit for them to adopt first, and then they kind of trust it, and then they're willing to dig a little deeper, I think. Yeah, in the back?
This may be somewhat tangential, but it's related to the idea of user research. I'm curious about what feedback you may have gotten about the badges that you mentioned earlier. Have people felt them to be a very compelling and urging, sort of encouraging thing?
So the question about badges and what's happened. So we launched the badges literally 3 weeks ago. And immediately we saw people refocus. We looked at the data, refocus themselves to achieve badges. And people started tweeting about it very quickly, like, I've achieved a moon badge and whatever. And even more interesting, because it's on our roadmap to do Facebook integration, right? The badge show, you can log in with Facebook already, but hey, you achieve it, it shows up on your Facebook account, kind of Farmville-esque, but it's actually productive. But before we even did that, people are cutting and pasting screenshots of their badges and putting it on their Facebook accounts before we're even doing it. So they're very proud of it, and we're seeing the kids. They're really, I mean, we have to be very thoughtful about what badges we put up there, because it actually is a amazingly strong motivator to make people go in one direction or another. So it's a big tool, so we have to kind of be careful with it. Yep, right here.
Who are your users, and what do you know about their location and their demographic?
So who's the users? So right now we don't do any like really hardcore. We don't ask people, how old are you or your gender or anything like that. All we know is it's about 2/3 male, 1/3 female. It's and this is in the broad audience. Not Los Altos is just the makeup of the Los Altos school, but in the broad audience, 2/3 male, 1/3 female. 60% U.S. and Canada, and then 40% rest of world. The rest of world is mainly, I say, like the former English colonies, including South Asia. I think we benefit there a little bit. I have the same name as a fairly prominent movie star, and he's it's kind of like it was like the Brad Pitt Academy, how it would, so it would, yeah. Oh yeah, question.
This seems to have been very effective for kids who are sort of self-motivated.
Yeah.
But do you have any statistics maybe on kids that need to be pushed or?
Yeah, so the question is, this would work well for self-motivated kids. What about kids that need to be pushed? So I agree. I think on like just the website by itself, like sitting there, like self-motivated kids are going to go there and say, oh, I want to learn calculus, before anyone else does, and they're going to go do it and all of that. Less motivated kids. So first of all, less motivated, I think we'll find this in a vacuum even more motivating than definitely like reading a textbook or trying to learn on their own. So I think there's that too, because there's game mechanics here and they get badges and all the rest. But I think in the classroom, this is way more, we've seen it, just anecdotally in the classroom, this is way more engaging for the kid who needs a social experience, who needs to like express himself in class, who needs, and I'll say it's mainly boys. It's mainly boys who don't like to sit passively in a class and do what you're told. They like to explore, they like to, and so I think there's a lot of that class of kids that you think are not motivated, but once you give them kind of the independence to explore and you give them points and game mechanics and all of the rest, it actually changes them. And maybe there's the completely disengaged kids. And it's funny because we're doing the pilot in 5th grade and 7th grade. 5th grade, there's almost no completely disengaged kids. 7th grade, there are completely disengaged kids. They've already judged themselves to be completely incapable and it's not worth their time. And I think something pretty important happens in that time. But even in those kids, you see, because of this, the teacher has a chance to actually focus on them and actually motivate them. And they can remediate without fear. They don't have to go up to the chalkboard and be embarrassed in front of the class. So I think it'll be better. I don't claim it'll solve all the problems for all the students, but we can definitely differentiate a lot better now than in the past. And I was told that, I was told there's a hard stop at 5:30. Some of y'all need to leave if you need to leave, but I'm happy to go another half an hour with questions if you want. But I won't find it rude if you need to go right now. Oh, very good. Okay. yeah.
Do you see people experimenting with different pedagogical models and creating overlays that are their whole UI that use your videos underneath?
Yeah. So the question is, do I see other people taking our content and kind of mashing it in other ways, or? The simple answer is yes. I mean, there's a ton of sites that like, we are going to create a platform or a portal, and we're going to take the best content from everywhere else, And then you get the best lecturers from everywhere. So that's there. I mean, we've actually, there was a debate about whether we keep it non-commercial or not, because we didn't want, we didn't want someone else to take the exact same content and go to like Kazakhstan, where people maybe don't know about Khan Academy, and start an alternate portal and all of that. So that's why we actually put a non-commercial. It's Creative Commons share alike, but it's non-commercial. That was the thought process. So there is that happening, but as far as I can tell, none of that has really kind of hit traction with people. Yep. Question.
Kind of a generic question. What do you see kind of going forward, the biggest challenges, or what in the next 2 years or?
So the question of what are the challenges, and I'll even broaden it, like what are we going to do? And this is what we tell our team is our number one challenge, I would say, is to maintain the DNA that's kind of gotten us this far, which is, because we get tons of pressure. The reason why we loved Los Altos is that they were willing to do it, I guess, kind of the purest way. We get tons of contact from schools that say, oh, we love this, our kids are already using it, our teachers are using it, and we would use it if you just integrated this with our grading system, or if we could stop kids from going ahead, or if we could, I'm dead serious. Like, the biggest point of feedback we got from other school systems is they were not comfortable with the kids being able to do anything.
All kids left behind.
All kids left behind, exactly.
Teacher guaranteed left behind.
And frankly, sometimes it's tempting. Sometimes some of those offers are tied to funding. Sometimes they're tied to some type of, hey, that's a big school district. That would be another, 100,000 kids on our system. But if,
Can't those guys put up a UI that keeps all the kids left behind, and the kids don't even know about that it's Khan Academy?
Oh, they could. It would take them 10 years and $100 million.
Just do it.
The reality is that, they could.
But is there anything wrong with that?
No, there's not. No, and I think.
We have 12-minute.
We love people using the videos in any way that they see fit. So, as I mentioned earlier, there are teachers that are saying, well, watch these 3 videos tonight. And that's cool, that's awesome. But if we are going and like investing time with someone and building features and stuff, that's why our challenge is to kind of be pure. Because there is a huge temptation sometimes, like, wow, we could get a lot of funding, or there's that grant from the government, and if we just changed our focus a little bit, we could get a lot of money or something. But I think that would ruin our organization. So that's the question right here.
How do you account for question forms that are not particularly conducive to like an online quiz format? Like, let's say you really want to teach your kids how to solve mathematical proof, but I can't imagine that's something that you can really easily do in a browser.
So this is an interesting question. This actually goes into the where are we going. So the question is, what are questions that are they're not really good for multiple choice or for kind of a text box, like automated question generation. And so I'm open to ideas here, but so there's a couple of things that we're thinking about. One is we might crowdsource question writing, which is a possibility, but that would still be like multiple choice or that type of question. The really deep level of questions, like writing a proof or something, and this is really interesting because right now, the gold standard in examination, I think many of y'all would appreciate, is the oral exam. Is literally sitting in front of a room of people and them questioning you and digging deep where they think that you might be weak or testing your depth. Right now we have 1 million students a month. That's growing, right now about 3-fold a year. We kind of eventually see a level of badge where, these are the badges you get right now, but there'll be another level of badges where you are a grandmaster arithmetician, you are a grandmaster at algebra. And if someone else is a novice and they want to become a grandmaster at algebra to get that really good credential, they have to have Skype oral exams with 5 people who are already grandmasters, and 4 of the 5 people have to say, yes, this person is now qualified to be a grandmaster. So we're hoping to do stuff like that, and I think the other level is peer-to-peer tutoring, where that's not like the proof level stuff, but we do hope in the next 6 months you're going to see a much more, I would call it an education Stack Overflow-esque type of interface for people to actually help each other. That's already happening by itself on some of our message boards, on the YouTube message boards. But with that will come badging, and you get credibility with the system, and you fast forward to the point where you can actually pair up students. Hey, there's a kid in Tel Aviv who has trouble with negative numbers. There's a kid in Tehran who knows negative numbers. Why don't we pair them up at 5 p.m. Greenwich time, and they'll have a session with each other. And 10 years later, they won't want to bomb each other. And so, yeah, question right here.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
are you thinking of the budget, going back to the earlier question about the grading system, and the schools asking about that, are you thinking of the badges as something for the grade?
Yeah, so the question is, do I think of badging as a replacement for the grading system? Right now they can't be that, right? I mean, one is you might get your older brother to go there and do the problems, and so you can't be viewed as a credible grade. Right now we view it primarily as an incentive scheme to make someone want to go in one direction that we think is good for them. I think if you go far enough in the future, once you start having things that are harder to fake, like oral exams, or and maybe there'll be a meetup where you have to go do it in person and you have to show your driver's license where someone says, oh yeah, this really is Sal. And, or maybe we do something with Prometric, or you have to go to the test center and do your thumbprint and verify, and we can statistically say, okay, that's the same person who's been doing all of this work for the past 5 years. There's ways to do it. I think then we might be able to give more credible badging and more credible authentication. And once you do that, it's actually really interesting. I mean, obviously, we want to keep everything private. If you want to keep all your data private, it's private. But if you want to show a future employer, or if you want to show, I could imagine a world where 20 years from now, Stanford, its new class, instead of this big application form, they're data mining Khan Academy. And privacy concerns. I won't. or Google would be data mining. There's something valuable about the human experience. But there is. If it is a human experience, I mean, I met my wife in college, so I'd probably be a single guy right now. So.
Match.com because you could see him in person.
Oh yeah,
That's not live.
Yeah. No, there's I have good memories of
Match.com things with Khan Academy.
That's not a whole other conversation. But yeah.
Incorrect answer choices.
Yes.
And have you considered using the concept inventories that are out there?
Oh yeah, like the Carnegie Mellon stuff.
It's not just Carnegie Mellon. There's a lot of concept.
Oh, where were they? And I'm not 100%. So the question was, how to get the incorrect choices, and I think you're referring to some of these resources where the incorrect choices are designed very carefully. So based on the incorrect choice, you really know, or you think you know where someone's actual weak points are. So we're doing a cheap version of that. I guess so we do common incorrect, like if you subtract instead of added, if you did this, so when we have a little API for writing a JavaScript thing. They're really pretty straightforward. You put in essentially how you would get the correct answer, and then you could put in a bucket of as many incorrect possibilities, and they're all with the variables. But we encourage people to put, when I wrote them, I say, okay, if someone did this step wrong, they would get this answer. If they did this step wrong, they would get this answer. So they try to attract people away from the incorrect, but we're not at the level where we're saying, oh, if they pick this choice, that means they need to watch this video or they need to remediate. We don't do that. And the reason why is that content generation is very expensive. But we might be able to approximate it eventually with the data. Just by looking at all of the analytics of their behavior, and does it match, if we can kind of cluster people with other people, we can kind of, maybe, and I don't know. But
something like Google Instant, like, what do people usually...
Oh, yeah. We could, oh.
Years could be applied.
Yes, the question is, could maybe the machine learning algorithm, and I'll get back to you, I think you had a follow-up. Was it related to that, or?
Well, it was related to the original question. In math, it's pretty easy to figure out where you would, just replace one step, addition for subtraction or something like that. But in science, it's actually, we're not entirely sure how people misperceive things, and so there's ongoing research on that. But there is a lot of research on that, and so there are a lot of
because going back to the question of why people like the kind of, I think it's because we have a fairly fast development cycle where people are like, wow, I can learn anything here. And so the reason why we didn't go as deep into these kind of reading into the wrong correct answers is because it becomes much more expensive to make the questions. But I think, and this kind of goes with the machine learning, we might be able to touch on some of that. We might actually be a really valuable data repository eventually for researchers. We might be able to approximate a lot of that just with the bulk of data. Hey, people who pick this choice, they then go and watch this video, and we can kind of cluster. And I think that's even true of the sciences. Even the sciences, in balancing equations or in photosynthesis, and we don't have that yet. We don't have that type of content yet. we'll be able to get data. You know, I'm talking to some test prep companies, the people actually administer it, about, hey, you know, give us your questions and we'll give you good data about why people are picking that choice or that. So that's on the horizon, but we're not doing it yet. The machine learning, you know, if there's some experts here who want to help, we'll give you administrator access and see if you can come up with something interesting. I mean, that'd be super fun, and we definitely want to go there. Yeah, right here.
For more, please visit us at stanford.edu.